Howdy once again everyone. Now, Sony's awesome decision to open up their full-frame E-mount mirrorless cameras all those years ago to third-party lens manufacturers means it's developed a very healthy supply of all kinds of different lenses, and 3 fast standard zoom optics on the system are really jumping out right now. The Sony 24-70mm f2.8 G Master Mark II, the brand new Sigma 24-70mm f2.8 DGDN Art Mark II, and the Tamron 28-75mm f2.8 G2. All of them are sequels to earlier lenses. Everyone loves a fast standard zoom lens. They offer probably the most useful general purpose zoom range in the world, paired with a bright maximum aperture for shooting in darker situations and getting more out of focus backgrounds. So a lot of wedding and event photographers as well as photojournalists swear by these lenses as they're enormously quick and convenient to use. Which one of these 3 should you choose though? And are they really all that different? Well, let's find out. The Sony G Master Mark II lens is by far the most expensive of the 3 at $2,300 or £2,000 here in the UK. The most affordable is definitely the Tamron G2 at a mere $900 or £849 here in the UK, plus it's sometimes on special offer. In between comes the new Sigma DGDN Art Mark II lens at $1,200 or £1,179 here in the UK. All 3 of them are full-frame lenses for Sony E-mount mirrorless cameras, although the Sigma lens is also available for L-mount cameras and the Tamron lens also on Nikon Z-mount. Obviously, the Tamron lens also has the shorter zoom range, only starting at 28mm instead of the wider angle 24mm that many people prefer, which is a real limitation, but at least it helps to keep the size, weight and cost of the lens down, although none of these 3 lenses are exactly big and heavy. All 3 of them have very lovely build quality and have weather sealing, although the cheaper Tamron lens is certainly the simplest without an aperture ring. Both the Sigma and Sony lenses have aperture rings that can be locked in and out of automatic mode and set to turn smoothly or to click every third of an f-stop, so both stills and video shooters can be pretty happy there. I have to say that the Sigma lens both looks and feels a little higher quality than the other 2, with more metal in its construction. That also makes it the heaviest of the 3 lenses at 730 grams. The Tamron is the lightest at only 540 grams, and the Sony comes in the middle at 695 grams. All 3 lenses have zoom and focus rings that turn wonderfully smoothly and feel very high quality. When it comes to focus breathing, the Sony is by far the best corrected, although it does show a little breathing when zoomed out. Here's the Sigma lens. It performs virtually the same as the expensive Sony option here, impressively. The Tamron lens shows just a little more breathing when you're zoomed in, but not much. All of these lenses will be absolutely fine for video work, and I honestly found that the autofocus motors of each of them worked almost the same, being fast, silent and accurate, although the Sony lens is just a cut above the other 2, with the Sigma coming a close second. So really, all 3 lenses have great build quality and function very well, although more advanced video makers might be interested in the aperture rings on the Sigma and Sony options. A quick heads up though, none of these lenses feature their own image stabilization, instead relying on your camera to stabilize the image, so do bear that in mind. Let's take a look at comparative image quality then. All 3 lenses here are being tested on 42 megapixel full-frame Sony cameras, with in-camera corrections turned on. The Tamron lens was tested on my old test chart, which looks a bit different, apologies for that. In the middle, at their widest angles at 24 and 28mm and at f2.8, image quality on all 3 is razor sharp with excellent contrast. In the corners, the Sony is sharpest, followed by the Tamron, then the Sigma. Stop down as far as f5.6 and the lenses rank in the same order, but at f8 the Sigma lens has sharpened up a bit. Alright, let's zoom in about halfway to 45mm. At f2.8, again, all three lenses look absolutely perfect in the middle. Corner image quality is best on the Sony lens again, and a bit softer on the Sigma and Tamron, but not bad. Stop down to f4, and the Sigma lens drops behind the other two a little, and even at f8, the ranking stays the same. Okay, finally, let's zoom each lens all the way in. Once again, each of the lenses are brilliantly sharp in the middle, straight from f2.8. Over in the image corners, this time, the Sigma and Sony lenses are in the lead, with the Tamron lens looking softer with notable chromatic aberration, even with image corrections turned on. Only when you stop down to f8 does the Tamron lens sharpen up a bit in those corners, but that colour fringing is still there. Overall then, all three lenses are putting in great performances, although with the Sony lens, you're clearly getting what you pay for, as it is always sharp from corner to corner, crowning it quite possibly the best fast standard zoom lens ever made. The Sigma lens has somewhat softer image quality in its corners at wider angles, and the Tamron's corners look a little softer when you zoom in, so it really is swings and roundabouts between these two there. When you're zoomed in, all three lenses can focus down very closely to your subject, although the Sony lens can get considerably closer than the other two. The close-up image quality of all three lenses is pretty poor at f2.8. Stop down to f4 though, and the Sony lens pulls ahead of the other two. At f5.6 and at f8 though, all three lenses start looking excellent. When it comes to longitudinal chromatic aberration, all three lenses look dreadful at f2.8 and even at f4, with the Sigma lens faring the worst. At f5.6, the Sony and Tamron lenses leave the Sigma lens in the dust, so that's a black mark for the Sigma lens really. But one area where the Sigma lens performs a little better than the Sony and the Tamron is in work against bright lights. All three put in very good performances here, holding on to their good contrast, but the Sigma lens shows a little less flaring at wider angles. Sigma actually have a team of engineers they call the Ghostbusters, who work on sorting flaring out, so perhaps that's not so surprising. And finally, bokeh. Honestly, the days of zoom lenses having ugly looking out of focus backgrounds are long gone. On each of these three lenses, the backgrounds look really lovely and soft, although perhaps not as much as on a prime lens. Alright then, well, overall, these three lenses are each way more similar than they are different, that is for sure. The expensive Sony lens justifies its price tag by having the sharpest image quality I've ever seen on an optic of this type. It's simply spectacular, and it's the obvious choice for any rich kids out there, or especially demanding professionals. The very affordable Tamron lens is the best value of the bunch, but it still has wonderful image quality. Tamron have saved manufacturing costs with a simpler design than the Sigma and Sony lenses here, so if you need an aperture ring, you're out of luck. Also, while it might zoom in a little further than the other two lenses, it can't zoom out nearly as far to 24mm, and that's a real annoyance to someone like me who loves wide-angle photography. The Sigma lens, on the other hand, is a happy medium, offering very nice picture quality, wonderful build quality, and the classic 24 to 70mm zoom range, at a price that severely undercuts the Sony. The Sigma would probably be my own personal choice here, basically because I could never afford the wonderful Sony lens. So there you go. Isn't competition a wonderful thing? We get three legitimately great options here for photographers of all different needs, and that's something every camera system should have. Enjoy making up your own minds, everyone, and ciao for now.